Hi, come on in.
And join in. It's the Very Merry Life. Hi, I'm Mary Hendricks, and you might know me as that relatable AF Mama over on Instagram who hopefully feels like an old friend at this point. And if not, it won't be long till it feels that way as we get raw, unfiltered, and very unapologetic in all things motherhood, marriage, sex, and more. From moments worth savoring to moments worth surviving, get ready to leave feeling seen and supported. You have a friend here now, so hey, take a seat. What's going on?
Hi, guys. Hello. Katie and I are laughing because we started, and today is just a cluster F-y type of day. And it's been a cluster F-y like month, but I started recording and my cleaning help arrived an hour earlier and I had to run down to the basement and record down here. So it's all right. That's all right.
But your logo behind you looks beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah. It's my little meeting. You know, I made this area as my office, but then it's too cold down in the basement. So I don't like coming down here because I hate being cold. So I stick upstairs, but.
I like to hear that you have a basement. I'm in California. So like basements.
Yeah, that's right. You guys don't have
here.
basements. I forgot about that. My brother and sister-in-law live in California. They don't have basements either. So you're not alone there. But hi, everyone. Obviously, if we have Katie here. I'm going to let Katie introduce herself. If you're on Instagram, you probably have seen Katie. Well, I've shared Katie multiple times, and you've probably seen Katie. But Katie and I also did a live not long ago. And that was great. So we're
we were talking about the transition between like 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and which one absolutely rocked our world.
Yeah. So do you still stand by 1 to 2? Was it 1 to 2?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 to 2 rocked my world also. That's not what we're talking about today, but 2 to 3. If anyone's pregnant with their third, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, just do it. And I've heard 3 to 4 is not a big deal either.
I know.
I've heard people say that it really balances out the chaos. Now we are done, but I would commend you for going for it, Mary. I'll live vicariously through you if you do.
I am so content right now. My friend recently had a baby back in December, and I met him before, but when I met him, it was like, I think the kids and I were just getting over being sick. So like we saw him in passing without like actually seeing him face to face. And she came over this past weekend and we got to see him and whatever. And I held him and stuff. And I looked at Kev while holding him and I was like, just so you know, I feel no ounce of baby fever right now.
Oh my gosh. Good for you.
Like, I just looked at him like, I was like, this is a baby. I'm like, I'm good.
Wow.
I'm really glad that I can pass it back and not have it be mine. Because I mean, my world's chaotic right now. So I'm like, I'm good. But it's just like, I don't want to be weighed down by a newborn again.
Right.
Because that's like, last year was like the first year of experiencing that weigh down of it. So I'm like, I'm good. Like life is not getting easier, but it's getting more independent.
Yeah. I think your oldest, I think, is 1 year younger than our oldest. And I feel like once you get to a certain stage and you start actually getting rid of some, like, Will is now not in a car seat. He's in a booster and he can buckle himself in. I'm like, I'm starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel of like where our life is going to be a few years from now. And I'm like, I have no desire to go back to the starting point and start that all over again.
Exactly.
And just delay that even more.
Yeah. So that's me. And like pregnancies got worse with each one. They got harder and harder where I'm like, I don't want to do that again. But also I miss it. like I'm like, I loved being pregnant. I loved like when they kick. I was like, I love that, but I don't know. I don't think I would. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyway, all right, let's get into, you introduce yourself first for everyone that isn't listening, because we totally skip past that part because that's how I do these podcasts. Because
it's just a conversation that people are just walking into. Like if they walked into a Starbucks and listened, eavesdropped.
That's all I want.
Our conversation.
That's what I want for this podcast. So if this is for whatever reason your first podcast you're listening to of mine, I hope this feels. Who's calling me? Jesus. I hope that this feels. Are you still there? Okay. Oh, someone just called me. My screen just closed down. What is going on? My world is chaotic right now. I want this to feel like you are sitting on the front porch with Katie and I. Like, I want someone to feel like you're at my house right now and we're happening to have one of those good porch conversations, and you just tuck yourself.
And there's no judgment as to what kind of beverage is in your hand, whether it be coffee, water, tea, wine, beer, whatever.
yeah, we're good. But
well, I'm Katie. I have 3 kids. They're basically 2, 4, and 6. I live in California, married to my husband for 7 years, and life as a mom is wonderful, chaotic, absolutely mind-blowingly difficult, and everything in between. In my previous life before kids, I was an occupational therapist, but now I'm a stay-at-home mom and trying to survive the struggle day to day.
Yeah. Aren't we all? That's, you know what? Someone just left me a comment on one of my posts that said, so I think it was on my reel yesterday. It said like, I said when I said I liked it rough, but I didn't mean this. And it was like Haley crying all of a sudden. And someone said, so you're saying that you can't handle motherhood. And I'm like, suck a big fat nut, Mr. Man. But it's always a man that comments that shit. And I'm like, but why is that a problem? Why is it a problem that I say it's hard? Like, I don't understand why.
So you get men that comment that mostly?
It's always men.
See, I get a lot of women actually commenting and telling me that I'm negative. And it's a lot of, I don't want this to come across wrong, but it's a lot of women who are not moms yet. And for example, I shared one recently. It was if you're on Instagram, it was the dodgeball one where, you know, you're like being thrown these balls and it's like, you think that you're ready to take it on. And then here comes postpartum and here comes the anxiety and here comes this and that and all these problems being thrown your way because that's motherhood. Like you're constantly dodging all of these balls being thrown in your face.
Yeah.
And that's not a euphemism, by the way. I mean like literal balls. And
never know. Depends on the day.
I mean,
depends on the day. That sounds awful. That sounds awful. I don't want balls anywhere near my face.
Balls in my face.
Depends on how much I've had to drink. So,
and there was somebody who commented and said, my husband and I are trying to start a family. And when I see things like this, I can't stand the negativity because it makes me second guess whether we want to start a family. And I feel like it's all negativity. And in my caption, I even said like, this is what it feels like sometimes. It's worth it. I'm not saying I regret motherhood. I would never say that I regret having our kids, but it's incredibly difficult. And I think there's a new wave of moms. Our generation of moms is sharing everything. We're not just sharing here's the family-friendly recipes and here's how to keep your house clean and here's how to welcome your husband home with a drink when he gets home from work and blah, blah, blah. We're not the June Cleaver generation. We're not the Carol Brady generation. We are the generation of moms who's sharing everything, including the hard.
Yeah.
And my hope is for moms who come after us that I don't want them to have a bad image of motherhood, but I hope that they have a more realistic image of motherhood because I think for many of us, we expected it to be hard, but we had no idea it was this hard.
Yeah. No. And my thing too, and I've covered this before and stuff, and I think I did a reel about it, like accounts like yours, accounts like mine, accounts like so many other mom accounts, relatable mom accounts. We're the icebreakers. And I've said this, like, we are the icebreakers, and we're not creating this content to necessarily, like, a lot of the stuff that I share isn't necessarily stuff that I'm even going through. Like some of the stuff I'm capturing a feeling that I may have had, but not currently. It's just an overwhelmingly popular feeling that many of us probably have felt at some point. Yes. And I share it because my hope is, one, there's so many of us that feel like we're the only people out there that are experiencing that feeling. And I can tell you right now, it's not true. And two, it's that icebreaker of being able to share it and be like, and put into words what you may not be able to. So right now, Katie might put a reel out and be like, this is what it feels like for me. And I want to share it so that way others know that this is maybe something I'm going through. And I don't know how to convey that to others, but maybe this is the way to do so. And I think it's like that way of just bridging the gap and getting that conversation started in order for us to create change. And that's what people forget. It's like, we're not doing this to be like, motherhood sucks. This is how it's always going to be. No, we're just conveying the hard that has always existed. So even during the June Cleavers years, that hard has always been there.
Yeah.
It's now just being
just didn't talk about it.
No.
Yeah. They didn't talk about it. They kept it to themselves. And then wasn't it you that shared something recently where like moms of that generation were secretly medicating themselves?
They weren't
and not
secretly.
It
was openly, I want to do a podcast about it and like actually present the information, but it was, if you look up, anyone listening, if you look up like Milltown was a producer of it. I think that was what it was called. But women were prescribed like ephedrine, Valium, Ritalin, things like that, uppers and downers and everything else in between. Because if they went to the doctor and been like, I'm so overwhelmed, like many of us are saying, like, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much to do. I have all these chores to do. I have the kids crying. I just can't complete anything. The doctors would prescribe them something like ephedrine or Adderall or Ritalin, something like that. Because if you've ever taken that stuff, it's like absolutely insane. I joked about it last week because I had a sinus infection. I took Sudafed, like the over-the-counter Sudafed, or not over-the-counter, behind-the-counter Sudafed that you have to like,
the kind you have to like sign for,
and show your ID for. And if you've ever taken that, it's like speed. And it cleared me up, like it got my congestion gone. But once, and I'm like, this shit's great. Don't do this at home unless you absolutely need it. But also, I got a million things done in about an hour. So, but that's what women were taking.
We'll be back after a quick break. Eye-Opening Moments podcasts are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
Right. I think our generation of moms are talking about we're having all of these hard conversations. And for so many women, that in itself is like the medication that we all need. We all just need to like know that we're not alone. And there are, a certain subset of women and people in general who do actually need medication. But for many of us, it's just the feeling of not feeling alone is beyond helpful. And it makes us feel like what we're experiencing is normal. Because the easy stuff, the pretty part of motherhood, the part where you say, I love my kids, I feel so fulfilled. All of that goes without saying. Like if I were just sharing reel after reel about like, I love my kids and this is my life and isn't it wonderful? People would think, well, duh. Like, of course you love your kids. I know that. Tell me the stuff I don't know. Tell me the stuff that I don't realize that we're all feeling. Like all moms love their kids, or most moms. I'm hoping all moms love their kids, but that goes without saying. It's the stuff that's the hard, the icky, the ugly, the anxiety, the depression, the moments where you love your kids, but you don't really like your kids. All of those things are the ones where moms might see it and think, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me. This is just what moms go through, especially stay-at-home moms who are like around their kids all the time.
But it's the hard stuff, and obviously, as you guys will see in the title, we're talking toxic positivity, and I think that's why Katie and I were inspired to record this episode together, because there is a creator on this app that I won't say her name, but she's a creator. She's big. She's like 350,000 followers, and she is the epitome of toxic positivity. And she got Katie riled up. I know she got me riled up. She got many creators in our bubble riled up, because she kind of said like these relatable mom influencers, and she didn't call out anyone specific, but she basically grouped, these groups, these type of content creators together, saying like, what did she say? What was her?
We're we're complaining about motherhood, or we're blaming motherhood, or that we're complaining about our kids.
But what was her Kobe Bryant?
It was that if you wanted to be good at basketball, you would go and like study Kobe Bryant. You wouldn't be studying the guy that's not
forgetting his basketball at home or something. Like, I don't know. It was something like that, where it was like, if you want to aspire to be great, you would study the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants. If you want to be subpar, then you would go to you wouldn't study
like the average
the person
player
that forgets their shoes at home. And if you think about it, the way she was comparing it, it's like moms. Like if you want to be a great mom, you should follow great moms. And if you don't want to be a great mom, then follow the relatable mom accounts who are admitting that they have faults. And it was really triggering. It was so bad. It was so bad.
And based on the comment section, it was triggering for a lot of people.
It was triggering for a lot because that's essentially what she said. It was like, you want to be
Follow
great,
the best.
then follow me.
Follow the
because
greatest.
I'm great. Like, I'm the best. Yeah. And if you don't want to be great, then you're not going to be great if you follow these other accounts. And I'm like,
it's toxic. It's incredibly toxic. And there's nothing wrong with being positive. I'm a positive person. Like overall, like, you know, I'm a mostly positive, optimistic person, but there are incredibly hard days. There are incredibly hard weeks. We are going through a really bad rough patch right now with our kids, with our two older ones, partly because it's summer and is it bad that I'm already counting down the days until they go back? But oh my God. Partly because it's summer, they're both just going through a really challenging phase where they're pushing their limits. They're trying to stand their ground. They're both trying to be bossy. And that is just a recipe for disaster because they're like both struggling for dominance, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And do I still love them? Do I still enjoy them? Do I still think they're funny as hell? Absolutely. Do I know that it's going to get better? Absolutely. But right now it feels like shit. It feels like I'm like being dragged through hell. And I want to talk about it because I know I'm not the only mom that's feeling this way. I know I'm not the only mom who is experiencing this. And if I were to ignore it and just talk about like, oh my God, look at the funny things that they said today, then I'm ignoring the hard. And I'm almost, I always talk about motherhood as it's a two-sided coin. There is the good side and there's the bad side. And if you're only talking about one of them, you're failing to recognize that there is a whole nother side to it. If you're only sharing about the good, look at the cute things that my kids are wearing, look at their beautiful bedrooms, look at our beautiful home, look at our beautiful life. Here we are on vacation and here's what I did to make it easy and blah, blah, blah. You're failing to recognize that there is a whole nother side of the coin, that there was a struggle to get there, that you struggled your way through the vacation, that your kid's room is a mess 90% of the time. You're not seeing the other side of the coin. And the opposite of that is true too. If you're just sitting there and complaining all the time and talking about all the negative, you're failing to recognize that there's also the other side of the coin that's beautiful and your kids add so much to your life. And it's two-sided. Nothing is one-sided.
Oh yeah. No, well, I say that all the time. It's the only reason why I know that there is hard, like when I hear a mom say hard, I understand why you're saying it's hard because you've seen so much good. Like we've seen so much good that we know a hard moment when we're having it because we've seen the opposite side of what that feels like. And the only reason why we ever have a really good moment and know how good that is
through the
because
bad.
we've seen hard. So like I think people forget that it's like I think it's important to be able to talk about both of these things. And I had a therapist on as a guest months ago, season 1, I forget what episode, but she was on and we were talking about it. And someone that you and I both know in this mom creator field, she had come to me and was talking how I don't want to say her name, but she basically went through something where she was approached by a friend of hers who said, I don't really want to hang out with you anymore because you're too negative. And so we were talking about that. And I talked about this with a therapist and same thing. I didn't say names. I just kind of said the scenario. And she said, it's a shame, but some people are like that. Some people cannot welcome negativity into the world because it's just a protective measure. They can't figure out that balance, which is totally understandable. But she said, then that's not a safe person for you to go to. And that's why it's so important to be able to know those people. And if you have those people in your life where you get shut down for opening up about the hard, they might not be your people that you can go to. They might just be your people for the other things.
For the good times.
For the good. But you don't have that other wholesomeness from someone else. And that's important. It's important. It's so important just to have that because I don't know, toxic positivity is like one of those things where it's like, it's one of those where if someone, I have a problem with it because I think people now use it as an excuse to think that that's enough to help a mom. Where if they just go up and be like, you're doing great from across the parking lot while all my diaper bag content spelled out and my kids are running into traffic, that doesn't help me. But that person thinks
Right.
that just helped me. And meanwhile, I'm over here drowning. And I'm like, no, I'd rather you just be like, you're having a hard time. Let me
Right.
let me help you out. That's more helpful to me.
I still consider myself in the, quote unquote, in the thick of it. I still feel like I'm in the thick of it, and I'm feeling like I'm on my way out, as your kids get a little older, more independent, they're in school, full time. You feel like you get a little bit of your time back. This is for stay-at-home moms, by the way, just because, so much of our life is just like kids, as opposed to moms who have a job outside of the home, who I feel like, I've never been a working mom, but I suspect that you feel like you at least have a little bit of something. There's definitely stress and a pull either way, but you have something that is yours outside of the house. And for me as a stay-at-home mom, I I feel like my cup is just constantly pouring into other people. And I feel like I'm starting to see light at the end of the tunnel, that I'm going to start getting some of that time back. But I do very much still feel like I'm in the thick of it. But the other day I was out grocery shopping by myself. The kids were with my mom or my mother-in-law. And I saw a mom of 2 young kids, and she looked like she was really struggling. And I thought to myself, what would I want a mom to say or do to me if this was me? And you're right. Sometimes I don't want to hear you're doing a good job. Like, I know I'm doing a good job. I'm trying my best. So that's all I can do. And I just looked at her, and she looked at me, and I just said, I get it. I get it. Like, I just do. I get it. I know exactly what you're going through. And as a mom, I think that that's so comforting to just know that, like, I'm not judging you right now. I'm not looking at you thinking you need to get better control of your kids. I'm not looking at you thinking that your kids are nightmares. I just get it. I get what you're going through right now. I see it. I get it. I understand it. And you were talking about the mutual friend that we have that was talking about how she was sort of X'd out by one of her friends for being too negative. And you're right. You need that safe space. You need somebody who's not going to judge you or think badly about you or think you don't love your kids when you're quote unquote complaining about motherhood. We all need to vent, and we all need to, blow off steam and have a safe space to share some of our deepest, darkest thoughts. And
how are we supposed to? I mean, no one in this world doesn't complain. Like, there's no one in this world that doesn't do that. Like, even about my husband, he goes to work, he comes home, he complains about work. So why is it that we moms are the only ones that are supposed to not complain? And I love when people are like, you wanted this, so why would you complain about this? My husband wanted his job. Like, so what kind of argument is that? Like, I want to be alive every single day, and some days are hard as a human living person. So does that mean that I wanted this and that I shouldn't feel the hard because I'm choosing to be alive every day? Like, that makes no sense. I don't understand why for moms
it's not a valid argument at all.
And for me, like, we are the generation too. Like, we're the generation of we're sharing shit. We're generation sharing, and we open up and do all that stuff. And I think it's so important, because I think the reason why for some it sounds negative is because they're just not used to it, and they're not used to the reality of things. But also, like, we are trying to we're like the breaking cycles generation. Like, that has never existed before our generation of breaking cycles. And whether that means like trauma based in your childhood, or whatever that might mean to you, because I think breaking cycles means something different to everyone, is I'm breaking cycles societally. Like, I would like that societally and everything to go forward from now on, where our daughters grow up and this doesn't feel like that, where if they choose to get married and have kids, it feels a little bit of a
it goes way beyond motherhood. This is not just about motherhood. Like, mental health is being talked about in a whole
mental health. I hope that's better, where our kids can talk about that, where they can openly advocate for themselves a little bit better. I hope like, even just airing the grievances, someone maybe what might get sparked enough to hopefully try and change something in politics, like whatever. But I feel like the conversations have to be shared in order for any change to come. And it feels, like I said, it feels hard and it feels negative because we just aren't.
We're so conditioned to just like putting on a smile and everything's good. Everything's
fine. I asked for this. I wanted this. This is a dream.
I was thinking about it as I was getting ready to come on today. My husband is a surgeon and went to med school, and he chose that occupation because he wanted to make a.
What's he surgeon in? I didn't know
he does like hip and knee replacements.
Oh shit! Okay.
And he went to med school because he wanted to make a difference in people's lives, right? And so just because my husband is a physician, I'm going to use this as an example, but I think that you could apply it to really anything. He went to med school and became a doctor because he wanted to change people's lives and make it better. But in prepping for that, of course, he researched how much work goes into going to med school and residency and all of the complications that come from just the process of becoming a doctor. And then now, you know, it's rare, but what about all the complications that he faces with his patients when his patients don't do well, or God forbid, one of his patients dies, or, you know, there is there's an icky negative side to that too. And anybody who's going into really any career, you make that choice because you want to enter that career, but you are fully aware of all the other stuff that goes along with it. You know, whether your husband or whether, you know, we're talking about doctors, lawyers, law enforcement officers, whatever, there is a bad side to that too. And I would hope that you would be fully aware of that before you enter into that. And I think that motherhood, I want motherhood to feel like that too. That if you...
It should. Well, and that's why, like, even you said that woman who like commented saying like, that makes me second guess.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Second guess it. Second guess it. Not saying don't do it. I'm glad you're second guessing it because the shit is hard. And if you go into it willy-nilly, because there are so many, and I know it in not my generation, because my sister is 6 years younger than me. She has her friends now are starting to have kids, which is crazy to me because I feel like they're all babies, but they're all starting to have kids and they do it. And I can see that, like, she has a group of friends who one just had their first and now like two others are having their babies. And she said, because they can't stand that they have to do everything in together. And I'm like, hope they're prepared. Because I'm like,
this isn't something that you just do because it's like, oh, I'm, you know, late 20s and I guess it's that time in my life. No.
I respect people that tell me like, I don't want to have kids. I don't feel like that's the right course for me. And I'm like, good for you. Even my friend that I just told you I saw this past weekend who has her first and he's only 5 months old. She said, she was joking around. She's like, if we're insane enough to do this all again. And I looked at her and I said, listen to me right now. I said, this is how it's going to go. He's going to get around 9 months, 10 months. That's when the sweet spot hits because he's so full of personality. He's chunky. And he's like sitting up and starting to move and they interact with you a little bit more. I said, you got about 9 months to 18 months that they're sweet and they're squishy and they're awesome. And I said, that's when you're going to get the baby fever. I said, it's a trap. Don't do it. I said, you hold out. I said, that's how it comes down. I said, I would, and honestly, if I could go back, like I love my two and or my three, but I love my two close in age. I would wait. If I knew what it was going to be like, I would have waited.
Between 1 and 2? But how funny. I was thinking about that too. I wish we had waited just a little bit more because that transition was holy moly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you feel like that you can do it, but you have to know the information before you feel like you can jump into it. And I feel like even sharing like postpartum mental health and postpartum anxiety, like I never knew about that stuff before I had a baby. I never even considered it when I had Cassidy. Like I knew that there was like a potential of like hearing some women feel down in the dumps, but I didn't know it to that extent. I had no clue as to what it could actually look like. And Cassidy, I thankfully didn't have much of it, but with Spencer, I did. And I remember just like,
it was our second.
I don't think I even recognized what it was until
it was our second that did it to me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think it's not all negative, but I think like we had said, it's the harder conversations that are harder to have, but they have to be, we have to have the conversations to make change, but to also I'm not trying to talk anybody out of becoming a mom, but I wish I had known it was as hard as it is, because then in the moments where I'm thinking I'm doing something wrong, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm quoting a reel of mine from way back when. I said, moms are told, you're right. Moms are told things like, you chose this, you wanted this. And that's true. I don't wish that I had had this information because I would have changed my mind. I think I would have still become a mother because that was something I always wanted. That's something my husband and I always wanted. We always wanted kids. But I wish I had known how hard it was going to be, because in those really, really bad, low moments, I wouldn't have been questioning myself as much. I wouldn't have been thinking, I'm doing something wrong. I'm a terrible mom. I was the girl growing up that I always loved babies, and I was always the babysitter. I always loved watching babies and being around babies. And it's, it's largely why I went into the career that I did and working with kids. And people all my life told me, you're going to be such a good mom someday. You're going to be such a good mom. Because I feel like I've always been very nurturing and had that sort of personality. And because I was always told that, I like to believe that it's true, that it came true, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But because I was told that I'm going to be such a good mom, in the moments where it was really, really hard and really low, I thought, am I not as good at this as I was supposed to? Like, am I not doing as good as I'm supposed to be doing? Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe were people lying to me? Like,
and then you feel embarrassed, and then you can't ask for help. You don't want to ask for help because then you feel alone. Like, no one, think about it. Like, if in any scenario, like for anyone listening, think about a scenario that you feel like you were the only person experiencing. Did you want to talk about it? No, it feels embarrassing. It's shameful. Like, you feel like you're admitting defeat, failure. And it's like, you don't want to bring that up. I'd rather just keep that hush hush to myself and keep on going on and stewing in the pit of misery, as opposed to being like, hey, you know what? I can't handle it. Like, even the guy that left me a comment saying like, you're admitting that you can't handle motherhood. Sometimes I can't. I have no problem admitting that sometimes I can't, because we weren't meant to do this by ourselves. And sometimes I am frequently doing this by myself. Tonight, I'm doing this by myself. My husband has a work event. I'm doing this by myself. I'm with my kids from 6:45 in the morning until 6:30 at night. That's 12-hour days by myself. Some days I can't do it. I don't have any colleagues to lean on. So.
Yes, exactly. And those are the days when like Bluey raises our children. But you're totally right. And so in those moments, for those listening, like in those moments where you have felt so alone, can you imagine how comforting it would be if you got on social media and there was somebody sharing that exact same experience and saying how they're feeling just like you're feeling, and they're like putting words to it or making it more understandable that you feel seen in that, and how comforting that feels, that like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one going through this, and I'm not the
I'm not messing this up. Like, I'm not someone that's like it's not just an individual problem. Like, this is just how motherhood is sometimes.
Yes.
It's just par for the course. And it's that right there, camaraderie is like, it's so
even
nice
as a content creator. I mean, I know that I'm doing this for my audience, but I'm also doing it sort of for myself, because anytime I share the heart and I hear from moms about like, oh, I feel this exact same way. You hit the nail on the head. I feel so seen. Those comments make me feel seen too. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm definitely not alone here. But even though I'm a content creator and I'm talking about these things, when I see people like you share certain things that maybe I haven't shared about that particular feeling or that particular scenario, when I see other content creators share it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Like, and I'm doing it, but it still makes me feel even more seen, like as an audience member to other content creators, you know?
Yeah. It's just a comforting feeling, because I feel like it's just, everything feels 10 times harder when you feel alone. And it always does. Think about anything. It's just like, but when you have friends on either side of you that can kind of be like, we're in this together, it suddenly just feels that less more of a, I don't know. I feel like we always turn everything in on ourselves. We're always our worst critic. And I feel like motherhood brings that out 10 times more. But I feel like when we see others are in the same exact line as us, the voice of the critic quiets a little bit. And that makes it just
and then but then when you see somebody like who we were talking about before sharing about like this is why I don't complain about motherhood. This is why I don't blame motherhood. This is why I like take accountability for my own feelings and blah, blah, blah. The critic's voice in my head gets really loud. And I start second guessing, like, am I not as strong? This person seems so much stronger than I am. Or this person seems to have their life together so much better than I do. And I think the other part of toxic positivity, as far as content creators go, if you look at the toxic positivity creators, anybody who's triggered you in that way, if you look at their life, I guarantee 9 times out of 10, their life is going to look very privileged, should I say? And I think it excludes a certain group of people who maybe can't afford childcare, or who don't have family nearby to help, or single parents who are doing it by themselves all the time. And it sort of diminishes the hard that so many people are feeling, because your life you are afforded a lot more privileges, whether you were given them or you worked your ass off for them. Your life looks very different than somebody else. So somebody who has a very, privileged life, telling other people, like, basically get in a better headspace. Yeah. It's like pound sand, because how do you know what I'm dealing with?
Yeah, well, and exactly. Like, I even know that I'm privileged in certain respects. You're privileged in certain respects. Like, we all acknowledge that, but I'm the last person to be like, I've had, because I am a pretty positive person. I've always been. I wake up, and if the sun is shining, then I'm automatically have more energy. I just have, how dog breeds, or certain dog breeds that have more energy. I think that's like humans. I'm just one of those that have more energy. So,
are you a golden retriever, Mary?
Me too. I don't know. I think I'm my dog. Someone responded to that. My dog, Lucy. I don't know if you've ever seen her on video. Someone said, they're like, have you ever noticed how people's dogs start looking like them? And I was like, yeah, I have. And they're like, Lucy is literally you. And I was like, I actually see that entirely. Lucy is like the sweetest, most upbeat dog ever in this planet. So I'm going to go with that. I think
you're like, I'll take that.
I'll take that. But I think that's just like, that would be like for me being like, you know what, I have cleaning help right now. I know that not everyone can get that, but I'm like, I have that. And that would be like me being like, you know what, I feel so good today because I just got my cleaning help. I rarely ever share about it because I don't want people, because I know that it's a privileged thing. I will share about it from time to time, just because I like to encourage people to like ask for help if they need to. Like, that was just one of those things that I couldn't keep up with anymore. But I do it in a way of being like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be asking for help, whether you're in the grocery parking lot and you're struggling getting your cars into the trunk. Maybe if someone offers help, accept it. Like, take it. Like, that's the type of way I try and spin that, being like, match my life, which isn't relatable. Let's instead move this in a way that we can find that level playing field for all of us, of accepting or giving help and taking it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd rather hear from people who say, when I'm feeling this way, this is what I do to pull myself out of it, not denying that it even exists, or not shaming others for feeling that way, or shaming others for not having the ability to pull themselves out of it. I want to hear when you do have those dark feelings, because if you're a mom, I know you have them. We all do. I know you have the same feelings that I do. You don't like to admit it, and you don't like to talk about it, and that's on you.
And I actually just recorded a TikTok lately, and I said, I'm not the friend, and I really am. I don't want anyone, if like for you or for anyone, if anyone ever came to me and they started crying and saying, sorry, I'm crying about this. I hate when people do that. I don't want you to do that because I am not the type of person that you ever have to feel like you need to apologize for having a very honest moment. And if anything, I recorded.
A very
and I recorded TikTok and I just said, like, if you say that, then I feel like I have to say, I'm sorry back to you because I'm sorry that I have at all made you feel
like you need to apologize.
Like, there's nothing you need to apologize for. Like we all feel emotion. And I think with motherhood, especially, and it's again, that's why a lot of us we're processing it we are processing the
real
emotions
time.
in real time while also having the responsibility still on us. It's not like we can take a break and process what we just felt for that day. Like, no, like I got on my stories last week and was crying because Cassidy was really mean to me. And I was just like really burnt out and it just was a dagger. And I just said, like, she got mean. I dropped her off at school. She was really upset about it. I was really upset about it. She went off to school and then immediately I get back in the car and Spencer's like having to pee and he's like kicking his legs around because he can't hold it. And I'm like zooming back to home and you literally hit the ground running again and you just had a really shit moment. And it's not like I can sit and process that while I have other kids that I have to.
You have 2 other small kids that you have to
and try to like not lose my shit because of this moment on them. Yeah. So it's like, and no one allows space for that. And the moment you do, then you get told that you're a bad parent. We get told that we should have anticipated it. That's my favorite. You should have known. Didn't you know that you were going to be around little kids that were going to touch you all day and making loud noises?
Yes.
Like, why didn't you expect this?
Yes.
Oh, well, I did. I've been around that, but it's different when it's my kids. And it's different when all of a sudden shit comes out of you that I didn't even know was in there. So.
And to be honest, did we know? No, we didn't. That's why I think this generation of moms is sharing all of this because my only hope is that I keep saying I want to start a journal. I want to like start journaling all of my feelings in motherhood because my hope is that our girls become moms someday because I would love to watch them do it. And I would love to be there for them through those moments. And my fear is that I'm going to forget how hard it was because I think probably our moms have forgotten.
Oh, completely. I think that's why a lot of the comments that come in that are nasty are from older women that like, I think they just get amnesia.
I'll ask my mom often, I'm like, was it like this when we were kids? And she'll oftentimes say like, I don't really remember it. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the problem is, you forget, you come out of it. And it's like when you're looking back at your kids and your kids are grown, all you want is to go back. Right. And so all you remember is all the good times, all the times they like squeezed your little hand and it felt so good. Or the times that they like waved goodbye to you from the bus stop on their first day of kindergarten. Those are the memories that flash on your mind when your kids are beyond those ages. And so the older generations of moms, I think, don't remember quite what it was like. Plus my mom was a working mom and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So our lives just look very different. But I keep saying I want to start keeping a journal for our daughters that I can just one day give to them so that they know when they're going through all of these emotions, their mom did too, and everything turned out okay, and it will for them too. That's my hope for our daughters. That's my hope for the next generation of moms. It's not to discourage them from becoming moms themselves or the next generation of parents from, entering parenthood. It's amazing, but it is incredibly hard. And I think if I had it to do all over again, I would do it, but I would want to feel more prepared for those really hard moments so that I didn't feel alone.
Yeah. That way it didn't hit you as hard as it does, because it does. And it just feels like you have no one to talk to. That like sucks. I hate that. I hate that feeling of being like, I'm really embarrassed to get on my stories right now and talk about this because someone somewhere is probably going to be like, bad parent. I'm like, I don't need that right now because I'm a really good mom. I'm a really good mom. But I have really shit moments.
Well, for anybody listening, if you need somebody to talk to, you know who to go to.
Yeah.
We are here for you.
Katie's one of a kind. So totally reach out to Katie and we are here for you. And totally. But yeah, no, toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that shit, man. Like we're not here for it. We don't do that. We're here to share both sides. Both sides cannot exist without the other. And you can savor it. You can savor those really sweet moments. But then there are other moments where like, no, that's why like even there's moments where like, well, I hate that whole 18 summers bullshit. My mom threw that at me the other day. She was like, I heard about this whole 18 summers. You only have 18 summers. And she was like, I read that. And I was like, wow,
no,
that's true. And I was like, no, it's not.
I've been meaning to share a reel lately. I want to talk about the whole, you're going to miss this thing that we hear often. You're going to miss the mess. You're going to miss the smudgy handprints and things like that. I hate that sentiment. I hate it because it's not true.
Sometimes I think sometimes you will, but then there are other moments where I don't think I will. Like I don't like a lot of the times the way mess brings out a version of myself that I don't like. And I don't want that anymore. I want to be able to get to a place where I can calmly talk to my kids and not feel like I have a million things.
For me, I feel like I can't picture a time in my life where I'm like, oh, I really wish that I had a smudgy window to clean right now that I just cleaned 10 seconds ago. I don't feel like I'll miss the mess. I'll miss the hands that made the mess. And I'll miss the kids that were making the crazy noises. And I'll miss I'm not going to miss the mess. I'll miss the kids that made the mess and the experience of watching them play to make the mess. Like, but I'm not going to miss the actual mess. I look forward to the day where I can clean a window and trust that it's not going to have a smudgy handprint on it 10 seconds later.
So it just depends on the day. But again, that's why toxic positivity would eliminate that side of being like, there's days where I really cherish it. There are other days where I am like, get it out of my life.
Yes. They're not mutually exclusive. They both exist at once, oftentimes in the exact same moment. I will find myself wishing away the young years and like, oh, I just wish they would grow up, because I know that the sibling rivalry and the bickering and fighting is always going to be there. Like, I have a brother, we've fought for years. So I know it's not going anywhere anytime soon, but I look forward to the day where they can like separate and play independently. Like if your brother's pissing you off, just go in the other room, like just ignore him. And I look forward to those years. But in the same instant, I'm like, oh, but look at our little hands and they're never going to be this little anymore. Like, it's a two-sided coin. And some days I'll get on my stories and I'll be, oh my gosh, my kids are so cute. Look at this funny thing that they did. And the very next day I'll be in tears because one of them did something that broke my heart or made me really frustrated or got me feeling overstimulated. And then the very next day I'll be happy. And then the next day I'll be sad. And it's like, and oftentimes in the same day, we're experiencing both sides of the coin, you know?
Well, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. But for everyone listening, I will link everything of Katie's in the show notes. I would highly suggest following Katie. She is, I said this on my stories when I was announcing that I was going to record with you, but there's content creators of all sizes on this app, but there are so many that produce valuable content. And Katie is one of those where I truly think that Katie's content is creating change. And she is someone that is just, she's worth a follow. So please go check her out. I wouldn't have asked her to be on.
Thanks, Mary.
Otherwise,
because that means a lot.
Another episode down. Thank you all so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, I would be so appreciative if you would leave a rating and review. I cannot begin to tell you how much those mean to me, but also how much they help me get in front of more eyes and more ears. As always, be sure to check back every Tuesday and Friday for a new episode, whether it's an episode with me and my husband, me and Katie, or just another incredible, amazing guest. Stay tuned for more honest, real, raw chit chat. And hey, do me a favor before you go. Remind yourself how amazing you are, how enough you are, how special you are. And boy, oh boy, I sure am glad to have you here. Thanks, friend.